There is so much happening in my background right now, y'all. I'm trying to share some profound thoughts. Hey y'all, it's Chimdi. I just turned 30. I know. People still think I'm 17. It's weird and it's creepy. And I wanted to go ahead and share some of the most important things I have learned from my 30 years on God's green earth. I wrote down about 8 of them. We'll see how many it actually ends up being once I start rambling at the camera. Let's just go ahead and get into it. When I think back on my younger years when I was really angsty and I had a bad attitude, I think the main reason I was like that is because I just didn't have any context. I hadn't really lived. I hadn't really gone anywhere. I hadn't really explored opinions that were really different from mine. I hadn't really met people who were different from me. And so I was judging the world through a very, very narrow lens. And as I've gotten older, I've noticed it like kind of like that, right? Where it's definitely been in the last few years, but more and more as I've gotten closer to my current age, where I'm just starting to see just how blessed my life has been and just how many things not only have been given to me, so experiences I've gotten to have, like traveling and people in my life who are just fantastic, but also how many things have been kept from me. Like the more I learn about how other people live in this world, some of their challenges, some of their struggles, I'm realizing, oh, there are a lot of things that allow me to be who I am and show up how I show up. There is so much happening in my background right now, y'all. I'm trying to share some profound thoughts. But yeah, there are so many things that allow me to show up the way I show up, and these are things that have actually been kept from me. For instance, I was listening to this great podcast called Why Won't You Date Me with Nicole Byer, and she had a woman in a wheelchair on, and she talked about dating with disability and small things like, you know, a partner will ask her to go to like an Italian restaurant, and she'll be like, oh no, I don't like Italian food, when the real reason is that she knows that the bathroom at that restaurant isn't accessible to her. And she doesn't want that person to already be thinking about how inconvenient it'll be to date her. I was reading this really great romance novel called, I think it was called Get a Life, Chloe Brown. It's quite good. And her character in the book deals with chronic pain. And you see how it led to a lot of people leaving her behind. People are having to deal with the realities of her chronic pain. They often don't rise to the occasion and they actually let her down. And so that has impacted her ability to relate to others. So all these things that if you don't deal with them on the regular, you just would have no reason to think about it. It's really the definition of privilege, you know, to not have to worry about these things that other people have to think incredibly long and hard about. I just kind of am realizing with every year, with every moment, just how privileged I am, not just because of what I've been given, but because of what's been taken off of my plate. If you watch my channel, then you've probably heard me talk about this a lot, and that is how important the people in your life are. We've heard that phrase that you're the combination of the 5 closest people around you. And as I've gotten older, I've realized just how important having folks with the same mindset is to having the success you want to have in your own life. Because when you're going through troubles, when you are struggling, when you are feeling down, it's these people who are going to encourage you and lift you up and remind you that you're great and you can do anything. And when you're successful and when things are going awesome and when you want to celebrate and live in that joy, these are the folks who will be right there for you and are celebrating your joy as if it's their joy. But in a more literal sense, these are the people that can connect you to the wider world that you wouldn't even have a relationship to. There have been so many things I've gotten to do that I've only been exposed to because someone in my life referenced it. A major one, of course, is the eye surgery I recently got. I'm seeing you perfectly clearly because I had a single friend say, hey girl, have you considered getting LASIK? I knew it existed. It's been around since 1995, but it was having someone who I knew, who I trusted, to be able to say to me in a way that they knew I would hear it, hey girl, this is a good decision. Your life will be better for going through this experience. I just feel really blessed and grateful for the friends that I've made over the last few years and the ones I've made here in LA, because they've really pushed me to be a better version of myself. And I think that's what I appreciate the most, is friends who see how you're acting and can say, hey girl, I know you think you're being cute right now, but actually you should consider this point of view. And it's not coming from a place of judgment, it's coming from a place of, I genuinely want to see you do better. I know you're capable of more and I love you. And so I'm going to give you that feedback you need to be successful. It's such a blessing to have that, and I'm realizing just how many people don't have that in their life. I was at a Shabbat dinner on Friday. We're talking about being in our 30s because I'm in that group now. And I had a friend say, you know, not everyone's going to make it to the end. And I was like, oh. And he was speaking about the reality that the friends that you have now and the friends that you had in the past, they're not all gonna make it with you as you continue to grow and change and evolve. And I knew that as a reality kind of theoretically, but in being in conversation with him, I really started to understand it's okay that not everyone is going to be as close as you once were, not everyone's gonna be in your life. And it's not a bad thing, it really is just how it is. And I think when I first moved to LA, I was super focused on trying to get to know everyone and make everyone my friend. And I'm realizing, of course you can have levels of friendship, but when it comes down down to it, you really only need that core set of people. And if folks don't fit, that's okay. It's definitely easier said than done. I can think of people in my life right now where I'm like, I definitely am still talking to you and we are not as close as you might think we are. I think I'm assuming, oh, my friendship is so great for them. And it's like, no girl, they can feel exactly the same way where they're like,
we really have nothing in common no more, girl. We really don't need to be talking like that.
Now that I'm 30, another thing that I think I've gotten really good at is accepting people for who they are. I think I was a very judgmental young person, and I definitely still am working through being judgmental of others. But just in the same way, context has allowed me to realize how blessed I am. Context has also allowed me to realize how many different factors have shaped who I am. And in the same way, every single person I meet, I could spend an entire lifetime and not know all the things that happen to them to make them who they are. People always say that I ask very good questions, thank you. And it's because I'm incredibly curious about people. Like, I genuinely really want to know, why are you the way you are? Why do you say those things? Why do you think the things you do? How do you view the world? And so as I've gotten older, I'm realizing it's an infinite amount. I could talk to someone for 100 years and there'd be an infinite amount of things that I could not grasp. And if they're saying some wild stuff, I should just be like,
oh, interesting.
Like, I don't need to take it personally. I don't need to try to argue with them, trying to change their mind. Because I realized that's what I would do with people who I thought just held crazy, dumb, insane opinions. I was like, you don't realize it's insane? So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions to help you we're gonna come to the place where you realize you're just saying nonsense. Believe it or not, people didn't like that. And what I'm realizing now at 30 is that the stuff that I believe is also nonsense. There's 100% something I believe in so strongly right now that I'm gonna probably find out in 2 weeks is ridiculous. And I'm gonna be like, how could I have ever believed that? Ever. Who are you, Chimdi? This was one of those things that I knew theoretically when I was younger, and now with age, I actually know and I actually feel it. And it feels great. It feels better. It feels easier to just love people for who they are and not try and change them. The final thing I'll talk about is love and fear. When I meet people who have different views than me, and sometimes those views are offensive, and I can't really understand why they're saying these things and thinking these things. When I apply the lens of fear versus love, it starts to make sense. People are scared of what they don't know. They're scared of what's gonna happen to them. They wanna feel safe. They wanna feel loved and secured. And when things threaten their ability to feel those things, they're gonna lash out from a place of fear. And what love does is love reminds you that you're gonna be okay regardless. And so you just genuinely do not need to be worried. And I think that recognition that you're gonna be okay, love is gonna win, it really takes away a lot of anxiety. And I think a lot of people live with just a lot of anxiety about how things are going, how they're showing up. And knowing that about people allows me to have more grace towards them, because I know what it's like to be scared. We all do. So when I see them acting in ways that I just really disagree with, I'm like, this is someone who's scared. And what allowed me to come to that realization around love versus fear is, say it with me, Jesus. Yes. You did not think we're gonna go through a whole video about maturity and adulthood and growth and learning and not talk about the Lord Jesus Christ? Come on now. I have found that I have had a better, happier, more successful, more fulfilling, more meaningful life the closer I've gotten to God. Everyone believes in something. Everyone is putting their faith in something. For some people, it's money and the stock market, astrology and the placements of the moons and the planets, science and technology and, mankind's innovation. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I mean, obviously I am. I'm saying God's better. That's implied. But I'm not saying I'm here to convince you that one is better than the other. I would just ask you to look closely at what you believe in and examine whether or not what you're putting your faith in is giving you peace and love and security and strength. If it's doing those things, then it's working for you. But if you're putting your faith in these things that have no foundation, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because when those things fail you, you're gonna be without anything. And what I love about God is every single time I turn to Him and I need help, He is there for me every single time. And what I also love is that His imagination, His creativity, His vision is far beyond anything I could imagine. If you had asked me at any point in my life to imagine what I'd be doing in my 30th year, I could not have come up with the things that I have been able to do. The experience I've gotten to have, people I've gotten to meet, the things I've learned, the surgeries on my eyes I've received. Every time I open my eyes, I'm like, look at the glory of God. I am sitting in my own apartment in Los Angeles, California, making money from making YouTube videos. My hair is laid in just a beautiful, beautiful low bun. Listen, this is a whole separate side story. I had a former manager at one of my jobs. She had the most sleek, beautiful low buns. And I remember looking at her like,
wow, she really has her life together.
And now I have low, sleek, beautiful buns. I was doing rooftop yoga in downtown LA. I have been to over 16 countries. I have a full-time job that's remote. I chill in my house and I work my job and I get paid twice a month. I'm literally rolling in blessings. It's all because of the Lord Jesus Christ. Like, that's the only reason. And I honestly feel like the only point of my life is to genuinely spread the good news. The way I'm approaching it is that it's not about telling people, hey, Jesus is great, pick up the Bible, get into it. It's about showing people, like, look at how good my life is. Don't you want a peace? Wouldn't you also want to live good? Aren't you struggling right now? Are you gonna stay in your struggle? I also just watched Black is King. She was like, you stay in your little struggle, girl. I was like, ooh, my heart would be hurt if Beyonce looked me in my face and was like, you just stay over there. Such a beautiful, beautiful piece of art. That's it, y'all. I'm very, very grateful to be alive. Here's to 30 more and 30 more after that. Or, you know, until whenever the Lord chooses to take me home, which truly any moment is fine. Look, it's a very dark way to end, but we're gonna do it anyway. Okay. Bye, y'all.